Democracy's Bradley Bowman to get his analysis on the situation as it develops. Thank you so much, Bradley, for joining us here on the programme. You're listening there to the House of Commons, a statement by the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. They spoke about the Western world being united in dealing with Russia. Do you think the West, the United States, NATO, its allies, have been united?
Thank you for the opportunity to join you, and thank you for the question. I would say, generally speaking, there's been good unity. There's been some fissures, with respect to Germany in particular. But I'd say, generally speaking, the approach has been positive. I specifically commend the United Kingdom for its actions in recent weeks to help Ukraine defend its territorial integrity and national sovereignty. I would just remind viewers that, the North Atlantic Treaty signed in 1949, its preamble talks about how it's founded on principles of, quote, democracy and the rule of law. So, if this is not a challenge to those principles, those democratic principles that Putin is undertaking Ukraine, I don't know what is.
But NATO really doesn't have an obligation, does it, to intervene?
No, NATO does not, because Ukraine is not a member of NATO. But here's the irony. Here's the paradox. Vladimir Putin is making a wonderful case for the value of NATO membership. He's invaded and occupied Georgia. He's invaded and occupied Ukraine. He has not done that to NATO members. So he complains about Ukraine potentially wanting to be a member of NATO, but his very actions are making a great case for why they should be a member of NATO, or why they would want to be.
Well, Ukraine does want to be, but we even heard President Biden say the other day that it's unlikely that they would become part of the alliance.
Right. Yeah. Ukraine has made clear for many years, for very understandable reasons, that they would like to be a member of NATO. And NATO has had an open door policy that has allowed other countries to come in. And Putin resents that fact. He's pursuing a might makes right model where he thinks, I'm powerful. You're not as powerful as I am. I can tell you what to do. I can tell you with whom you can associate, and I can tell you what you can do on your territory. And when I talk to my interlocutors from Russia, they say, well, we're not going to invade. Where would you get this idea? Well, look at Georgia, look at Crimea, look at the Donbass. We've seen this movie before. And that's why I think the Biden administration should be moving heaven and earth to help Ukraine better defend its territorial integrity and national sovereignty.
But Bradley, you say we've seen this movie before, but frankly, for the Ukrainians, this movie hasn't ended. It's been going on for 8 years. Why do you think the focus on now? Because when you speak to Ukrainian lawmakers, for example, which I have on this program, they've said we can't really say why the timing is special now. This has been a problem for us for 8 years. We've had over 10,000 people dead. The Prime Minister actually just said that it's in excess of 15,000 dead in Ukraine. We've seen Crimea annexed. For the Ukrainian people, this never ended.
I agree with that. I didn't mean to suggest that it did. It's been an ongoing, horrific movie, and so maybe sequels is not the perfect metaphor there. Exactly right.
We seem to have a technical issue there with Bradley Bowman's line. We'll try and get him back up, but let's go back to the House of Commons.
NATO presence in Ukraine, utilising the superior hard power the alliance possesses to make Putin presence in Ukraine, utilising the superior hard power the alliance possesses to make Putin think twice about invading another European democracy.
Prime Minister.
I thank him very much, and I know that he will, emotionally, many people will share what my honourable friend says, and he knows a great deal about Ukraine and about the issues that country faces. And of course, instinctively, many people would yearn to send active physical support in the form of NATO troops to Ukraine. I have to tell him that I don't believe that to be a likely prospect in the near term. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, but what we can do, and what we are doing, is sending troops to support Ukraine. I've mentioned the training operations that we're conducting under Operation Orbital, have done for the last 6 or 7 years, trained 21,000 Ukrainian troops. And of course, we are now sending defensive weaponry. Mr. Speaker, defensive weapon, which I think is entirely appropriate. 2,000 anti-tank weapons to the Ukrainians, and we join the Americans in that effort. As he knows, the Americans have sent about $650 million worth of military assistance to Ukraine. That is a vital thing to do, to stiffen Ukrainian resistance. But I think the real deterrent right now, Mr. Speaker, is that package of economic sanctions. That is what will bite, that is what will hurt Putin, and that, I hope, is what will deter him.
Leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Again to the Prime Minister. Let's go back to Bradley Bowman, who joins us from the United States. And Bradley, I mean, you were listening there to the Prime Minister again saying that economic package is what will bite. Do you think that's sufficient?
I do not, no. You know, the Biden administration has been talking about how if Putin proceeds, that we'll pursue some of the harshest sanctions ever seen, that will strengthen the force posture on NATO's eastern flank, and that will dramatically increase U.S. defense assistance to Ukraine. My fundamental point is that's all well and good, and I applaud that, but we should be taking steps now, additional steps now, to arm Ukraine to change Putin's cost-benefit analysis about whether he should undertake it in the first place. That's deterrence, and deterrence needs to be shored up, and you do that providing Ukraine additional means to defend itself and raise the costs of aggression.
Bradley Bowman, thank you so much for joining us.